Hey Tony, it is, in fact, Thursday. First off, to answer your question of the week, there have been a few issues we've had in apartments, never like particularly, well, there's only one that was particularly serious, and that was part of the reason why we moved here was, so we had a landlord for years in Springfield who we really enjoyed, but he sold the property and it immediately started going downhill, and then COVID hit, and so we had neighbors who were smoking pot all day, every day, which causing so many allergic reactions for Jay. Also, I have my own child who does not like getting picked up. Tripod.
And tripod is not tiny.
Say hello to your niece, Tony. But no, otherwise, so this week was pretty good. I was only in court one day of the week, which wasn't too bad, which was Tuesday. Tripod still wants to say hello. But I was only in court on Tuesday. And it was actually a pretty good day in court. I did something that was almost impossible. Well, it will be impossible when I actually have the court hearing on it, but my guy wasn't able to get there, so I had to basically just like ask the court, hey, my guy meant to be here, but he had work, he wasn't able to get out of it because there was a misunderstanding as far as his court date, and the court's like, yeah, sure, whatever, that's not a big deal. So that's, instead I have a pretrial on that in November. But otherwise, then on one other good thing that happened on Tuesday is, so I was dealing with a juvenile delinquent case, and unfortunately my client got detained a week ago, but he was able to go home this past Tuesday, and I was really happy to see that. So what I want to talk about this week is a little bit about what my weekend plans are, because it's going to be a fun one. I'm actually quite excited for this weekend, as is Tripod.
Should we ask Joe and Abby if we're like what the plan is for Halloween? Because I just realized.
We are doing a spooky session for Halloween with Joe and Abby.
Okay.
So obviously this weekend's Halloween, and so it's gonna be a pretty fun weekend because Halloween's always fun every year except for last year, but 2020 doesn't count because COVID, and bad COVID. So tomorrow we have our mask game coming over for a little one shot that's going to be zombies. We're all going to be playing as our kid superheroes dealing with a zombie outbreak in our halcyon. Our characters will die and get turned into zombies because we're doing a what if. But that'll be pretty fun. I'm really excited for
All the characters except for two have character sheets. I just haven't done anything with them.
Cool. I mean, I imagine it's what we'll be doing tonight while we're watching like Critical Role and stuff.
Yeah.
Then Saturday, I'm really excited for Saturday because I think I've told you, Tony, but I've been streaming Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney on Twitch. It's I'll put our link in the description for those who want to watch it. It's a Team Valenstorm on Twitch, but I've been playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which has been hilarious and fun because the games are actually really good. They're just not law. And as a criminal defense attorney, there have been many times where I'm like, no, that's not correct. Like, I think last time I streamed it, in the first 5 minutes, I had 2 breakdowns of like, no, that's not how this works. Which was funny. So I'm doing that on Saturday. I'm doing a big, massive one all day, probably starting at like noon and going till I finish this last case. Because this last case is actually a really long one, from what I've heard. It's the longest in the first game. It's also the last one in the first game, so that's going to be pretty fun. But to make it even better, I'm doing it in costume. I'm doing it as Phoenix Wright. So I have the whole costume all set up. I'll be having my webcam on. I'll be streaming with the camera up of me playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney dressed as Phoenix Wright. So that's going to be a really fun time. And then on Sunday, we have football day, so I'll be watching football for most of that day and doing laundry. But we're also having a game night, our D&D game night, with our friends Joe and Abby, and it's going to be a spooky haunted session, which I'm excited for because it's our sailing game, so there's a lot of things you can do with like this haunted island that we end up at, which I'm pretty excited for it. All in all, I think it's gonna be a pretty fun weekend. Like I said, this past week itself wasn't too bad. I had a little bit of training on Monday and Thursday this week, which was for child protection stuff. So I've had two of my required training child protection classes. I have 2 more I need to go through before I can really start doing CPA child protection cases. But they were not particularly engaging, but that was fine. It wasn't meant to be an engaging type thing. It was still good information. I still learned a lot. Otherwise, I've just been working on a couple files all week, a couple bad ones that I'm not going to talk about on here because they're bad. I had to read a lot of letters from one of my clients today, which were rough. They were rough. So I'm not going to go into detail on that because I can't because of attorney-client privilege. But let me say so some of the cases I reviewed this week were a little bit bonkers.
It was squeaky.
Yeah, the ones I've read the past couple days were squicky, and the one I had on Tuesday was just insane, just truly, truly insane. And I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that case some other time, Tony. But it was crazy, involving a guy, his pastor, a gun, and a canine cop unit. Which I know sounds like, the start to a bad joke, but there was nothing joking about this case. It was just insane. But Tony, my question for you is, what are you doing for Halloween this year? Obviously, I'm doing Phoenix Wright, so I'm curious what you're doing. Tony, I'll see you on Monday. Later, bro.